thank you for joining us at the ever-improving No Soundbites Allowed podcast. My name is Michael Vasquez. We thank you for joining us in this adventure of describing the politics that go on in our nation on a personal and local level as often as possible, giving you, the audience, more than just 30 seconds to understand what's going on in our nation. We look forward to joining you as we go. Just sit back, enjoy the ride. Please remember, if you like the episodes, like it, share it, let other people know, and if you can, please donate, even if it's $2, even if it's $5, because it all makes a difference. We thank you, and here we go. Hello, everybody. I hope everybody is well. This is Michael Voss, the Dragon of the Southern Tier, and I'm here with you at No Soundbites Allowed. Now, in this episode, we have a lot of ground to cover. I'm going to try and cover it as quickly as possible because there is breaking news here. Newsflash. Newsflash. That's right, I have a new sound effect. Hopefully you like that. But more importantly, there is news here. Because on January 26th, we heard from a candidate, the candidate for the New York 22nd race, Assemblyman Anthony Brindisi, who made an astounding statement to the public. He literally said on air on WUTQ-FM, a Utica station, he was live and he threatened the public. He made a threat to the public, and to understand that is to understand his character and is to understand what's going on in the New York 22nd race. Now, you don't have to, like me, you don't have to think that, you don't have to be a Republican, you don't have to be a conservative, you don't have to want to vote for Claudia Tenney. It's not about that. In any race, it is essential that the public actually understands the character of the people who are in that race. I believe that incredibly. That's why I ran in 2013, because of the character of then Representative Richard Hanna. I believed he was a liar. I believed he was not doing things in the best interest of the public, and he was not being forthright. And I ran for Congress because of that. And I've stood up against my party numerous times when I believed that there were individuals on the local, state, and national level that are doing the wrong thing, and I will do that every day. So it's not about a Republican versus a Democrat. This is about Anthony Brindisi and his character and what he has done. And I have to tell you, it wasn't partisan. He was on WUTQ. He was speaking to their news program, which is called Talk of the Town, and he said he threatened the public, his own residents, his own constituents in Utica. So it has nothing to do about Republican or Democrat. It has only to do with Anthony Brindisi and what he felt based on him being questioned for his actions. Now, I'm going to zip through this next part very quickly, though, and I'm going to show you proof of what I'm talking about very shortly. But let's do some background here. The whole issue comes up because in Utica, they are trying to build a hospital in the downtown area. Sounds simple enough. It's not. The idea first came up in November of 2014 as just an idea. In January of 2015, a series of ongoing emails were being sent between Anthony Brindisi, the assemblyman, by the county executive of Oneida, Anthony Pacenti, the head of the hospitals in Utica, Steve Pera, and several other government officials, including a representative from Governor Cuomo's office in the Department of Labor. And the emails can all be found, and were found because of a FOIA, Freedom of Information Act, where a group of regular people requested that all documents about this hospital be revealed. Because this is no small deal. There's $300 million in taxpayer dollars that are being spent on this hospital. There's another $500 million that has to be paid for, most likely from taxes from the public. That means statewide, as well as in Oneida, as well as in the New York 22nd District. It means that there are people who are about to lose their homes and their businesses because of eminent domain, because of this hospital. And it affects everyone in the New York 22nd District because Anthony Brindisi is running for Congress, and this is one of his speaking points. So let's be very clear here. So in January of 2015, a chain of emails were going on. Many of them were hidden from the public because they were used by private emails, kind of a step from Hillary Clinton in using email that the public could not get access to through FOIA immediately. So Anthony Brindisi hid his emails and his conversations, and those conversations start with a demand by Anthony Brindisi on the location of where the hospital will be. Now, this is important because there was no feasibility study done. There was no research done. He made a demand that the hospital has to be in the downtown Utica region. We don't know why. You can speculate on that if you wish. We don't know what his reasoning is, but it must be down there and nowhere else. And throughout a year, over a year's time, that was the only place, and essentially they locked it in by law that that's the only place the money can be spent, the only place the hospital could be put. Still, it doesn't sound like a big deal, right? But it is. You see, at the same time, from January of 2015 going forward, the email conversations that were going on between this elite group of very few individuals were not what the public was told. In fact, the public was told the very opposite. While they made plans and locked in the law to guarantee exactly where this hospital was going to go and exactly how much money was going to be spent on it and exactly when this would happen, the public was told, well, this is all up in negotiation. We're open to hearing the public's voice. We want to hear the public's questions. In fact, even in the emails, it was directly stated that Anthony Brindisi himself said they needed to organize a way to shut down the voice of the public and to stop any criticism of their actions and to stop any critique about this hospital because they wanted to go forward. He actively wanted to shut the voice of the public down. This is not how a representative of the government is supposed to act. They're supposed to listen to the public and do what the public wants. Instead, Anthony Brindisi, according to his emails, in his own words, says he doesn't want to hear the public's voice and he wants to stop them so that he can continue to do what he wants to do. That's not me saying that. That is in his emails. And I have a summary of those emails. If you go to my website, on my political blog, on January 18th of 2018, there is the article which is called Backroom Wheeling and Dealing in Utica May Affect the New York 22nd and Other Elections. You can look it up on Google, go to the website, read it yourself. It has the exact FOIA documents, the quotes from them, and exactly what Anthony Brindisi said and on what dates that he said it. So you can make your own judgment on that. Now, the further complication of this whole thing is, and again, I'm going very, very quickly here. Please look up, and you don't have to even go to my website. Just look up the Utica Hospital scandal or No Utica Hospital. You will find other sources if you don't trust mine. That's fine. FOIA documents are FOIA documents. It's word for word. But, look at whatever source you want. But this is ongoing and continuing. So there was initially an outrage in the middle of January because people were saying, oh my God, Anthony Brindisi has been doing all of this stuff behind our backs, along with the county executive, Anthony Picenti, along with Ray Meyer, who used to be one of the representatives for the Utica region, along with Steve Pera, who's in charge of the hospitals. It's a whole coalition of individuals doing things behind the public's back. And so they're very outraged about that. But it didn't stop. See, the problem is that since there was no feasibility study done, since no one had actually done anything except listen to Anthony Brindisi and say, okay, we have to put it in downtown. that now there is a question of eminent domain. And to be very brief about that, eminent domain means that the government can come in and take your home, that a government can come in and take your property, your business, and take it away from you. They will pay you a price for it that the government thinks is fair, but they take your stuff. So if you have a house and they're building a highway and they decide the highway is going through where your house would be, they have the right under eminent domain for the government to come in, buy your home, whether you want to sell it or not, for a price that you may not like, take it away from you. You have to move. They'll destroy your home and build the highway. That's eminent domain. And right now, the Utica Hospital, for the $300 million price tags of taxpayer dollars plus the future price of another additional $500 million, they're going around and they have eminent domain right now. And they are in the process of telling residents in Utica, in the city of Utica, businesses in the city of Utica, property owners in the city of Utica, that they're going to take their property, their possessions away from them, whether they want to or sell it or not, and take it away from them so that they can build the hospital where Anthony Brindisi wanted it. And right now the city says they won't do it because they don't want that backlash. The county says they don't have the right to do it. The state says they don't have the right to do it. Everyone's stuck now because no one knows if they can do it. And this is all because the feasibility study wasn't done. Instead, the feasibility was that Anthony Brindisi said he wanted it downtown according to his emails. But even that is not the part that has me upset. But I want you to understand the backdrop so you can understand what's going forward. And I want you to absorb everything I've just said. I'm going to take a quick break. Absorb this. Essentially, we have a politician, a small group of politicians, who have deceived the public and misled them for over a year, almost 2 years, at every step in a project funded by taxpayers, guaranteed by the governor in law, so that the funds can only be used the way that the politicians have decided without any input from the public. And now to enact this, the government is going to take away the homes and the property and the businesses of the public to satisfy that small group of politicians. Focus on that for a second. Tell me that's the kind of character you want to see in any elected official anywhere in this nation. Is that what they should do? Go behind your back to engineer a deal that they like, that may not be the best thing for you, that takes away your home, your property, and your business. And it gets worse. So while you think about that, I will be right back, and then I will play the proof of exactly what he said that gets even worse. His own words. But we'll take a break, and then we'll be right back. And I hope you're enjoying the show, and we're going to be back in a second. All right, folks, thank you for coming back to No Soundbites Allowed, and this is your host, Michael Voss, the Dragon of the Southern Tier, and we have quite the show. So, as I said before, there is a lot going on right now. This is a huge, huge issue, and we have a newsflash. Newsflash. Yes, I like that sound effect, even though I just made it. Hopefully you like it too. But more importantly, so the news flash is that on January 26th, Anthony Brindisi did something that I've seen very, very few politicians ever do. He went out and threatened the public. It's just that simple. I can't word it any other way. It was what it is. Anthony Brindisi, unprovoked, without any cause, went out and said to the public that he will hurt the public because they're asking him questions. Now, you may say to yourself, Mike, that's just an outlandish thing to say. What politician in their right mind would threaten their very own constituents? What politician in their right mind would say that the public doesn't have a right to ask a question or to have a complaint or to speak out? That's not what their obligation of their job is. That's not what it is to be in politics. That's not how our government runs. And you would be right to say all those things, except that's not how Anthony Brindisi found it. He had an entirely different viewpoint. And I want to make sure that you're able to hear exactly what he says. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play, it's about 2 minutes long. It's a clip. This is from WUTQ-FM, which is in Utica. You can go to their website and look it up. On January 26th, it was their morning show about 7:30 in the morning when Anthony Brindisi was on the program. And Anthony Brindisi, this clip is 2 minutes of him talking about the Utica Hospital. And what he has to say is incredible because it is a threat against his own constituents. So I want you to hear that in full. So there is no question of context. This is him speaking about the hospital unsolicited. He brought it up himself. So here it is.
To see that in this case on both sides. So, we'll see what happens. But I can't stress enough. Again, This is not a scare thing, but it's very clear that if this thing doesn't move forward, this money is not going to sit out there forever.
Right.
The state has other priorities in other parts of the state that they have to take care of. We were very fortunate to get $300 million for a new hospital. I think anyone, and I have been someone who has spent a lot of time in both hospitals over the last year with a very close relative who's battling stage 4 lung cancer. So we have very outdated hospitals that are not conducive for modern healthcare needs. And if we lose out on this money, we do not get a new hospital. The people that are going to be hurt the most are the people in this region. So I hope very much that we can come together.
How long before it goes away? You said if they don't move forward, then the money will go away. What is a timetable by which the state will say that's it, the money's gone, and how far along the process do they have to be before the money gets pulled?
That's a good question, Mark. There's no set timetable in the law that says if you don't execute by this date, then we pull the money back. But we saw an issue a couple years back where the money was in there the one year, and the following year it was taken out. So priorities change from governor to governor. Every year in the state is a different set of circumstances determining how much of a surplus or deficit the state may have. But I can say that looking from past experience from other projects around the state, if you're going to be sitting on it for year after year after year, the state is not going to just put a $300 million marker down indefinitely. And at some point, they will say that either move or get off the pot.
Mm-hmm. But right now, you don't know what that point is.
No, there's nothing determined, nothing set in stone as to what that point would be.
Yeah. Well, Assemblyman,
I think that everyone will find that to be absolutely incredible. That was an astounding thing, I believe, to hear a politician say that they believe that that they're going to take away funding that is not in danger, that they're going to deny the public for the simple fact that the public is asking questions. Because that's what's going on right now. The public has questioned his emails, his backroom wheeling and dealing. They're questioning the way that he told the public one thing as he did an entirely different thing behind closed doors, making deals that they may not have wanted if they had known about them, and to guarantee and to absolutely ensure that the public has no ability to alter his plans. And because there is a question about that, and because that question has now endangered his ability to be elected as a congressman, which is in question anyway, but because it may endanger his election hopes, he is more than willing to take away $300 million from a program that he says himself that is needed for the people in Utica. And notice that he was going off of the sympathy, talking about how he himself had family members, and I don't doubt this, that were ill and that had to go through the Utica hospital system. And I hope that they're feeling better. But he's using that mental image of a loved one that is not feeling well to try and draw sympathy towards his side, which does not apply because this is about politics. This is about the good of all the people. And just because he thinks it would be better for his loved ones to have a hospital in downtown Utica does not make that a fact, nor does it make it the best thing for the public. But he has acted as if it is. And then he goes on, and he continues, because if the sympathy wasn't enough to win over any of his detractors, anyone who's opposed to his idea, he goes on to say that he will that the money will go away. He will allow it to go away. Really? Without a time frame, without anything in the law. In fact, the law saying that the money must stay there and cannot be taken away because of Governor Cuomo. So he's saying that even though it's been bulletproofed, that the money cannot be taken away, even though there is no threat from the government, there is no time frame on this, he still says, don't be afraid, but the money's going to go away. That is the definition of fear-mongering. That is absolutely fear-mongering. You don't let me do this, we're going to take it away. It's going to go away. You won't be able to have it. Really? I find that insulting. And in fact, I found it so upsetting, so absolutely aggravating, that I called in. And it was, I don't know, it was in the teens, about 16 degrees in Binghamton on January 26th, first thing in the morning. And I was walking to work, because I walk to work part of the way. I had to call in. I had to call into WUTQ because I had been listening to the show. And when I had to call in and speak about this because I was amazed. I cannot believe, and I've never heard another politician so directly and boldly threaten the public to do what they want. And I have to say it again. I don't believe that the character of an individual who would threaten the public because of their position of power, because they want something it's worse than a temper tantrum. It's going out and hurting people because you want something to be done. And you're using your position of power to make sure that happens. That's abuse of power. It really is. And I want you to remember, this is all coming about in part for two reasons. Because Anthony Brindisi's emails that he was trying to hide from the public, along with Anthony Picenti and many other figures in Utica, were hiding this from the public. And now that it's come out, there's a second component that they are looking to take away the homes, the property, and the businesses of people in Utica to be able to enact his vision, his dream, that has no feasibility study, that has no verification. It only has his desire backing up where it's going to be put. Is that the kind of person that you want to see elected to any office? Is that the type of character we should expect from our elected officials and representatives? I don't believe so, but you don't have to agree with me. But consider it and listen to it. Listen to it. Play that back. Listen to it for yourself. Make your own conclusion, but I will tell you, I will play for you. When we come back from the break, I'm going to play exactly how I felt, word for word, what I said on air in Utica right after I heard him say that. And when we come back from the break, you're going to hear that directly. So we're going to take another musical break, and then we'll be right back. Hello, everyone, and thank you for coming back to No Soundbites Allowed. And as promised, I'm going over the breaking news that occurred on January 26th in the city of Utica on WUTQ-FM. Newsflash. Newsflash. Okay, so I like that sound effect. Yes, I've used it in every segment. But in the first segment of the show today, I covered what the background is on the Utica Hospital and the question of character that it raises about Anthony Brindisi. The fact that he would act behind closed doors in one manner and turn around to the public and act in an entirely different manner. Literally arranging and organizing and guaranteeing that a hospital is going to be built exactly where he wants it to be, because that's what he wants, while telling the public, oh, this is up for grabs. We're not sure. This is something still in development, even though he's engineered it for months in emails. And a bigger question about character, which is the key of this, that he went out and actively pursued a way to combat, as he says, combat the voice of the people so that they would not be able to raise questions, so that they could not stop his momentum in getting his vision done. That is dangerous. That's not just ambition. I'm not even sure. It's definitely ambition, but it's even worse. It's insensitive. It's uncaring, in my opinion, for a candidate to be able to say those things, for an elected official to do those things. And it may not be illegal, but I do believe it's immoral. And I do think that it's something that's a question that needs to be known to everyone, especially those in the New York 22nd District, especially those in the Southern Tier who will be voting for or against this candidate in November. Now, as I promised in the last segment, I played word for word what Assemblyman Anthony Brindisi, candidate Anthony Brindisi, had said on air, which amounted to a threat to take away, if the public continued to question him, and if they fought against the eminent domain where the government is taking away people's homes and property and businesses to fulfill his desire, if they were to continue to complain and fight against this, he would allow the $300 million to suddenly just disappear. Something that he himself guaranteed and arranged with Governor Cuomo so that it could not be taken away. That he arranged to make sure that it could only be used exactly how he wanted. And he's now talking about it suddenly disappearing without a time limit, without any change in law, without anything changing. He's suddenly going to make sure that he's letting us know, don't be afraid, but it may go away, which it can't unless he allows it to do so. And what I did, what I want to share with you now is my conversation with WUTQ. Now, I should also mention, in the second segment, you were listening to WUTQ, and the gentleman who asked the follow-up questions of Anthony Brindisi is Mark Wahlberg, who is an attorney, and he was asking those questions. He's part of the show, and he's asking those questions of Mr. Brindisi about, is there a time limit? Is there anything in the law that changed that would take this money away? And the answer to that is no. Well, Mr. Wahlberg and myself and the rest of the show at WTQ Talk of the Town, I called in from Binghamton as I was walking through 16-degree weather going to work to share my thoughts at that moment. And I'm going to play that for you now.
And I believe from the Southern Tier, Michael is on the phone with us this morning. Good morning, Mike. How you doing?
Good morning, Jay. Marco, Mark.
Good morning. How you been?
Not bad. It's a cold day down here. Probably a little colder for you.
Yeah. Whereabouts are you located? Just so folks know. And you've been a long-time listener of our show. Always popping in to see what's going on up here. Because our politics really, they can affect your politics down there as well.
Everybody's connected. Everyone's connected. Mm-hmm. And it's been, I don't know, maybe 5 years now I've been with you. I'm in the city of Binghamton.
Sure. No. I guess the connection is our congressional districts really, they mesh together. You know, they our representative represents portions of your area down there as well. So I think that's what gravitated you towards our show to just listen and check out some of the interviews we have on with some of those individuals. So I'm sure that's what you were doing here this morning.
That was very much what I was doing this morning.
And he was firing off a lot of questions he wanted to ask. Sorry we couldn't get to him.
I know.
No, it's all right. I was a little late, and I'm getting to work late, but I always like to listen in and see what's going on. And the thing that got me really riled up, did I just catch Assemblyman Anthony Brindisi at the end there threaten the public and say that if we continue to have questions about the Utica Hospital, and if we have issues about the eminent domain, which wouldn't exist if he didn't start in January 2015, according to the emails, and make the decision for the public, that he's going to allow the money to get taken away. He's going to let the $300 million that doesn't have a time limit to just be taken away from us. How is that not a threat?
I don't know if he's going to allow it to leave. I think it's to the extent that at some point the governor and everyone involved won't be able to argue for it to be kept there anymore.
That doesn't seem to make sense, though, because in the emails and the entire chain, we found out that the governor made an active point of bulletproofing the money. That's quote unquote, bulletproof the money, so that it could not be affected by the budget and must be allocated. That's what they said in their emails, to make sure that they will get this, regardless of what the public knew at the time. So how is it not, in making that statement, how is that not a scare tactic and or a threat?
I interpret it the same way you do. I interpret it the same way you do, that if you don't take this, it's going to go away, although when I specifically asked him what the timetable is, there isn't any. So it's there, and there's no indication that you have to take it by a certain date, or you have to be along the process to a certain point by a certain date, or it's going to go. So I interpret it, I think, the same way you do.
Mm-hmm. And Mike, I guess I understand how you interpret it, and you could, I guess, you can look at it as is it the scare tactic? But also on the other end of it, is a reality? Is the assemblyman just saying, regardless? I think the points that you made, put those aside. At the end of the day, the reality is, you like me, you don't like me, you don't like the process. That the potential is for the money to be taken off the table again. And I
then
know
there would be a time frame. Then there would be a time frame if that was the case. We would be able to say, if we're not able to use that, I mean, it's government. We all know timetables change and so do budgets, but that would mean that something has occurred, and you can point to it and say, if because of X, new development, new budget, new process, there's something that's causing this to go away. But that's not what he said.
Well, that's what happened with the governor right when the funding got put in there in the first place. The next budget came around and the funding was gone. So then Brindisi, Griffo, and Picenti and Mayor Palmieri, they all had to go to Albany and fight to get it back in the budget again. So I think nothing is ever out of the possibility of happening for whatever reason someone wants to use.
Mike, if you don't mind, just to give us a perspective of maybe some other communities, what is your healthcare system or situation like in the city of Binghamton?
It's pretty good. Recently, I know firsthand because recently I had some heart issues and been getting it checked up. And, it worked very well. Right on top of it, the local hospitals have been very efficient. We had a lot of upgrades, of course, because of the floods. So we really don't have the same issue that you have in terms of whether you should have St. Luke's upgraded or having the downtown hospital created with its issues as well. But I think we all have a big problem in the state because our healthcare system is just not right. I mean, we're paying, 25% more than the state of California for roughly, half as many Medicaid recipients.
Well, Mike, and I think you're making the point to what I was, kind of getting to. I think for most of us here, I think the majority of us here, there are some that say, maybe that's not the case for me, but I think the majority of us here can agree that the upgrade to healthcare or our health system is needed, and I think that's maybe where the agreement can stop as a whole. And then there are a lot of other questions and issues that pop up, but. With that being said, I guess we're going to have to continue to follow and see. And as you pointed out, there were emails. There's more information. As we become more educated on the issues, I think we'll continue to ask the questions.
Yeah. What troubles me, Mike, and you probably listening to you probably are troubled by the same thing. There is no analysis to determine what the difference in cost would be between building it at the St. Luke's Hospital campus, where they own the land and there's nothing on the land. Right. Or building it downtown where they don't own the land. They have to buy the buildings, they have to raise the buildings, and then they have to deal with the environmental issues. They have to reroute traffic. Or they're going to deal with the sewer pipes and the water mains that are under that structure that are going to have to be rerouted. What the cost is going to be. And then one of the things you mentioned is the cost of health care. Well, the cost of health care in Utica is going to go up because somebody's got to absorb these costs. It's either going to be the people who are paying for health care or the taxpayers, or most likely both. So it's going to increase. I mean, this has to come from somewhere. And no one has ever come up and said, if we were to upgrade the existing hospitals, this is what it would cost, and this is what we'd have to do. We have no alternative. Most of the time in your life, when you're spending your money, you look at various alternatives. I could buy this or this or this, which is better, which costs more, which is more economically efficient. And in this situation, we're not being given a choice among alternatives, which clearly do exist. We're just told this is the only option we have. But it may be that we could upgrade the current hospital at 50% of the cost and accomplish the same thing and be in the same place where we would be with a new hospital. I'm not saying we can. I don't know.
Well, Mark, actually, if you look at the email chain, I believe it was either the month of July or May. I don't recall at this moment as I'm walking to work. But there was the outside group from California that came in to consult with the hospital. And in that group, they identified that St. Luke's could be a feasible option. Now, it wasn't a feasibility study, but they do mention in the email that it was an option. And the response from Picenti, from Brindisi was that they were not going to go with that option because everything had been designed to ensure that it must go downtown. That's in the email.
Right.
So again, we're looking at, I don't know, I know it's not illegal. It is absolutely gray area. It is absolutely non-transparent. And there's a lot of questions here. I mean, just on this one issue that are quite troubling because this is not the way government is supposed to function.
Well, Mike, it sounds like we want to get you to work. You got to get to your job, and you sound like you're walking there and get inside and get warm. It's chilly out there. But we appreciate it.
I love the show, so I just wanted to get in. Yeah. And I'm listening.
Yeah. No, I thank you for listening.
Very good points,
and
Mike.
It's interesting. I think it is interesting that Mike is listening. And
So as you can tell, folks, I'm a bit upset by this. I believe this is important. And I think it came through as I was speaking on Friday, and it's coming through in this program today. I'll say it again. You don't have to vote Republican in November. This isn't about the election per se. This is about the character of the elected officials that represent us. And this is the key. They represent us. The obligation of elected office is to serve the people and their best interest, to put that first. Now, as I said, you can look up the documentation, the FOIA documents. There's the No Utica Hospital Group. You can search for it, and the documents are public. You can go to my website and see it on January 15th at mvass.com, mvas.com. Look it up any way you want to. See the actual written emails and what Anthony Brindisi and Anthony Picenti and the other elected officials in the Utica area were saying about and to the public. It doesn't match up. It tells you that they have an agenda, and I have to believe that if these individuals are to get more power, their agendas will only grow, and that doesn't necessarily mean something good for the public, because at the moment, at the local level, as an assemblyman, well, the state level, as an assemblyman and as a county executive, we're watching them take homes away from the public. We're watching them take property and businesses away from the public to fulfill their wish. And so when I say that this is about the character of individuals, I'm talking directly about the character that would allow someone to have blind ambition without feasibility studies to enact, to orchestrate an entire event paid for by taxpayers, $300 million of taxpayer dollars, with a future guaranteeing, as Mr. Warburg said, that there will be higher taxes and there will be additional burdens from the state and to the local community, which includes the New York 22nd District, which means the Southern Tier as well. And that's just as an assemblyman. Imagine if this individual were to be elected to a higher office. What kind of ambitions would Mr. Brindisi, if elected, try and put through that just serves his whims without any kind of checks and balances? And if there were checks and balances, his answer is retribution. He would enact retribution against his own constituents. I find that troubling. That's how I see this. You may disagree. Maybe you'll vote for him. That's fantastic. If you do not believe that these are serious character issues and that you would vote for him regardless, even though he's doing things behind the back of the public, even though he's not telling the public the truth, even though he's hiding documentation from the public, even though he's taking away the homes and property of the public to guarantee his view, and then threatens the public, if that's not enough to make you concerned about whether or not he gets elected and you want to vote for him, fantastic. I'm not telling you not to. But I am telling you, be aware of what you are electing. Because if he is elected, we can't say that we're surprised if he does this again. If he continues to do this going forward. If we don't hold our politicians accountable when they are doing something that is not only when they do something illegal, but also when they do things that are in the gray area, that means they're moving towards that line, in my opinion, and that if we don't catch them, if we don't stop them, if we don't hold them accountable, what's to stop them from going even further? What stops them from going into this gray area where it's hidden from the public? It's not quite illegal, but it's definitely immoral. It's definitely questionable. What stops them from continuing to go forward and just outright break the law? It's a question. It's a question that needs to be answered. And I believe that this candidate requires him to answer the public and explain how we can expect anything better from him in the future if this is what we see from him today. But again, I wanted to put it out there. You've heard his words. You've heard my words exactly as they were spoken. Full context. Make up your mind yourself, but at least now you're informed. Please share this with everyone you know in the Southern tier. Let them hear it, look it up, and then make your decision, because you deserve to know this. And I know for a fact it is being held down and it is not being covered as it should be, because this could affect the election. And it's not because of what I think, it's because of what he has said. But we will continue to follow this, and I will continue to talk about this, because I will not be intimidated, and I will not allow a politician of any party to go out there and act in this manner against their very own constituents without having some voice. But I thank you today for being with us here at No Soundbites Allowed. I hope you do enjoy this program. I hope you come back again. And until then, I want you to be well, and we look forward to seeing you in a week.